Yo, what's going on? Michael Turk here, aka Hangtime the Punter. Today's video, we got a good one. The video is how to punt. So I'm going to tell you guys everything I know about punting. I know I haven't been doing it the longest, obviously, but ever since I started punting, I've been very intrigued about all the detail that goes into a good punt, the different phases of it, and it's kind of like a science to me at this point. So I'm thankful that you're watching, and I hope you get something out of it. First of all, I think this is an interesting stat. In 2013 college football season, teams that won the field position battle, which is obviously greatly influenced by the punter, they won 72% of the time. And so your job is probably more important than you think. And so let's get as good as we can at it and make a difference in our team. Now we're going to break it down into phases. So we got the steps, drop, swing, and pace. And each phase we're going to talk about in detail, and I think this makes up the entirety of the punt. However, let's keep in mind you have to catch the ball first. I couldn't think of a worse scenario than this, honestly. So this is pretty. I probably should have made catching the ball a phase because of how important it is. We're all most likely going to have at least one drop in our career. You never want it at such a crucial time as this. And really, it's always a big doozy if you ever drop the football. It just never ends up well. So make sure we catch the ball first, then get into the punt. That's obviously crucial. So work on your hands. And I feel for this guy. I just thought this was a good clip to show how bad it could be if you drop it. All right, steps. Whether you choose to be pure two-step, jab, three, or shuffle into it, I think this encompasses all sorts of steps. The key is to be short and compact. If you remember anything about steps, I want you to remember that today. Be short and compact. For me, I'm a jab, two-step guy. I used to be shuffle, three-step shuffle. Because I thought, man, if I can just gain a lot of momentum, I'll hit a good punt. Kind of like you guys ever seen Happy Gilmore? What does he do in the movie? He runs up to the golf ball as he drives it, and he outdrives everybody because he's hitting massive hits. But in reality, we know that that's not realistic. That's why even golfers stand still, because what really matters is ball contact. And if you're getting your energy straight through the football. And I believe that the less steps you have and the shorter you are, the more consistent you will be in getting your energy through the football. Also, you'll have better leverage. You'll have better body control, ball control, and more power if you're able to get straight through the ball every time. Let's see, anything I didn't mention here. All right, let's go to the next slide. Oh yeah, here's a video of me real quick. This is when I was a free agent punter. That was my title slide of the video. I mentioned, shout out to Morstead. But in this video, you'll see my steps pretty clearly, and you'll see that I don't take up that much ground, maybe 3 yards, at the most 3.5, and I start with my right foot forward. Now, conventionally, if you're a right-footed punter, most guys start with their left foot forward, but I start with my right foot forward now because that keeps the distance from my left foot. When I do sometimes make it go, pick it up and do a jab, it's now only going slightly in front of my foot, as opposed to when I was left foot forward, my jab would now be here, and then I'd start out already with a pretty long step. So that's why I do that. But in this video, take note of how short my steps are and how I'm only taking up 3 yards. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I think I hit like 10 in a row, around 10 in a row, good. But as you can see, that first jab step is barely moving. I know I'm not taking a snap, but nonetheless, we can watch this one in slow-mo maybe. All right, take note of how short the steps are here, which is why I had a good, consistent set. All right, that's enough of that. But the reason that's good is, once again, it's all about consistency, and you're getting the most power through the football once you if you're locking out at the right time and getting through it and all that. So that helps me hitting good punts consistently. Let's see, I have a couple more slides on steps. Anything I didn't mention in here? Oh yeah, this is a good point. Short steps also lead to less likelihood of getting blocked. I've seen great punters, even guys who are pros. The guys who tended to be longer on their steps throughout their career, they had more blocks. And that's obviously never good to get blocked. I don't think Morstead's ever been blocked or gotten touched really, and that's because his steps are so short. He might have been blocked. I haven't looked that stat up, but let's see here. Also, this bullet point: the shorter your steps are, think about this, the more room you have for air in your drop. Obviously, you don't want any air in your drop, but if there's some wind or something, if your steps are short, you now have better leverage to still close your hips on the football, and a little tiny bit of an inside drop is okay. You can get away with that and still hit a good ball. But if your steps are really long, sometimes a little inside drop turns into a major inside drop because of the leverage of your foot and the angles and all that get worse as you get longer. So that's another benefit. Here's a quick disclaimer. I'm not saying you can't be a three-step punter. Pat McAfee, I don't know if we'll ever see this, but he can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he was a three-step punter in games. I know there's film of him practicing being two-step, but I believe him and Shane Leckler were three-step punters. And if the worst thing that happens to you end up being the punter of the decade, then that ain't too shabby. So, but the key is these were athletic guys, and they were still short and deliberate in their steps. They weren't super long and crazy all over the place. They were just, I believe they were three-step punters though. All right, let's keep going. Drop. Now this is arguably the most important part of the equation for a good punt. Depending on how tall you are and your body structure, you can have a high, medium, or low drop table. And when I say drop table, I mean once you catch the ball and have it out in front of you, you do not want that ball moving as if it's on a table. That's why they say that. Or as if it's on a plane, right? You don't want the ball going up and down or side to side. Depending on your body type, leg speed, and type of punt you're hitting, you're going to want to change. You'll have different drop table than another guy. However, I will say this. Back in the day, I think the norm was higher drops, right? Trying to get hang time. But now, as we have progressed as punters, I think we're realizing it's more superior to have a medium to low drop. The reason being that's less affected by the wind. You're almost able to hit the ball out of your hand, and guys are strong enough and fast enough now to where they're able to lock out in the ball quick enough, and a medium to low drop is actually perfect, and they're getting max power through the football. So I would lean towards medium to low. I'm probably right in between there. Now, only you can figure out the Goldilocks zone, as I like to call it, or the perfect spot for your drop table, and you'll figure that out as you punt more. The important thing is, once your ball is set on that drop table, it should not move or spin. I see a lot of guys who drop the ball and their hand comes like that and the ball ends up spinning a little bit. That's not good. You want the ball as still as you can, and that's evidence that you don't practice your drop enough. Depending on how long your leg is, some glide is necessary, or some people call it pushing the ball out. That's the only movement that is okay. And the ball itself isn't moving, like the angles aren't moving, it's just going outward a little bit. So that way, if your legs are kind of longer, you can push the ball out onto your foot as opposed to it hitting your ankle. Now, these last 3 points, this is important. So I'll read the last point first. For all intents and purposes, if you're just trying to hit a good punt, the ball should basically be flat. The nose should be a little bit inward. If you think about a clock, maybe like around 11 o'clock, you can kind of experiment with that a little bit. And also, if anything, the nose of the football, so that the front tip of it should be a little bit downward. And the reason being is as your foot's coming through, that will allow you to increase your likelihood of the ball turning over and being a spiral because your foot is forming to the ball well. However, if you're a little bit more experienced, you can still form your foot to a drop where the nose is upward. And now if you hit it strong enough and fast enough, it will still turn over, and the initial trajectory of the football is now going up, and that'll lead to better hang time. Also, if you're trying to go for more distance, we could say the opposite. You can point it more nose down, and now your energy is going more through the ball down the field. And so, yeah, that's just that depends on what type of punt you're hitting. Now here's the almost flat drop. So this is like an open field punt, right? I'm trying to get the best distance, the best hang. This is an example of one of mine that you can see that it's basically flat. If anything, the nose is slightly below the tail of the ball, which again will be good. That'll be perfect for likelihood of turning the ball over. Here's Morstead, same thing. His is a little bit flatter, might be perfectly flat, or if anything, the nose a hair down below the tail. And I'm sure this was an open field punt where he's just trying to get good distance and good hang. Now here's an example of a nose more up drop. This is my brother Ben Turk. This is Tyler Newsom at Cole's Kicking Camp. And these punts were both great hangs. And as you can see, the nose of the ball is actually above the tail. And especially here, you see it on this angle and with his drop. The nose is above the tail. And what that does is, if your leg is fast enough and strong enough, you can still hit the meat of the football if you know how to form your foot to that. And now the trajectory is going upward. The only caveat is, I wouldn't really do this if you're new, because it increases the likelihood of having a bad punt as well. I mean, if these guys hit the back of the ball here and they don't get good, they don't form their foot well, it's going to be a crazy looking punt and just not the best punt. So that's the one caveat with that. You need to practice that. Now, here's a more nose down drop example. This is Pat McAfee and Shane Leckler, a couple of the best to ever do it. And as you can see, here's Shane. He's planting at the 5-yard line. It's not an accident that the nose of the football is more downward than the tail. This guy's trying to drive the football, and I'm sure he's in a similar spot in the field where he's trying to drive it. And this will be a good game time drop. If I was back here, this is probably the type of drop I would have as well, because we're trying to maximize our distance on this punt. But obviously, you don't want to hit a worm killer. You still want to have good hang and good direction. But this is an example of a distance type drop. Now, the last one is a drop punt. Now, there's obviously more types of drops, but for the sake of this video, we'll just go through these. This is when you're trying to obviously get it inside the 20, and it's going to have a rotation of like a kick or a kickoff. And this comes just by practice. You're trying to hit this part of the ball here, so that way it doesn't spiral. And you're trying to hit like a lob shot, right? So you got to practice that one. Now, this should be the last slide on drop. Where you drop it over your leg. I say directly over your leg. So you know how your quad is split into 3 muscles? Directly over that middle muscle. But if anything, you want the drop, in my opinion, a hair on the inside of your leg, so almost like the teardrop of your quad. This is because anatomically as humans, I can close my hips on a football, but if my drop's on the outside, it's going to be hard for me to open up my hips and still maintain a fast, a speedy, and strong leg swing. And so that's my thoughts on that. Ideally, though, you should be good enough and comfortable enough to drop it straight over your leg and swing straight through the football. Now, we already said this. Last points here. A good drop will automatically place you above many other punters. And so there should be no excuse for not having a good drop. The reason being is because with punting, yes, your leg can get tired. You can suffer maybe an injury or something. You have to be out for a while. But the drop, you can practice the drop anywhere at any time. Unless you're really injured, you can practice your drop anywhere, anytime. And even I do it at home. I do it at a basketball court on a line. It bounces right up to me. And, practice this because it directly correlates to when you go out and punt. If you're giving yourself a good drop, like I said, you're automatically above a lot of guys. And so last thing, too, you can even bounce up the ball to yourself and practice molding it really quick. And this will also help with your pace if you get good at that. Now, the swing. The reason I said more complex than it may appear is because for the swing, I could have just said, make sure you swing straight. But the reality is some guys who cross over, their swing looks a little bit crazy, and you still see them hit a great punt. The reason being is what's most important is you get through the football. The energy gets straight through the football as opposed to swiping at it, or what I mean by swiping is like, I don't know if you can relate to this if you've punted before, but you're swinging as hard as you can. You just don't feel the thud, and you feel like your energy is just not going straight through the midline and the meat of the football. You don't hear the thud. It's just like deflected towards the outside of the football, or you're slapping the football. And that's not good. That obviously is not ideal if you're trying to hit the best punt. So yeah, you could read all these bullet points, but I have a couple more slides on it. Here's another important point. I think old school punters, and the old school thought was get your foot as high as you can. That'll equal more hang time. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't follow through. I'm not saying your foot should not be high. What I am saying in this first point is what is actually more important, we know this now, is getting your hips through the football and your quad into the football. That's why you see some guys who their leg is bent afterward, and they're kind of like, it doesn't even look like they're getting their foot that high. Nonetheless, they hit bombs because they're getting their hip and the quad into the ball, which is actually where all your power comes from. Once the ball is gone, that follow through is just your leg, still going through the air, and that's not even directly correlated to the ball at that point. But I will say that some of my bigger hang time punts I do follow through very well, but I still get my hips and quad through the football. Now, quick point, eyes up. It's debated. Some coaches teach this. Eyes up is, what I mean by that is when you drop the football, you know how some guys say keep your head down? Well, some guys say keep your eyes on the football. This will keep you in better body posture, and it'll keep your swing straighter. And the only thing I can say about that is if I am crossing over a lot, I will go eyes up on a few punts, and that'll usually get my legs straighter, because if you're eyes up and you're looking at the football, generally it's harder to cross over because you'll be unbalanced and you'll fall over. So that's my advice on that. Now let's watch a quick clip of Thomas Morstead. Here he is at Jamie Cole is one of his pro camps. We could really look at everything for this punt: the drop, the steps, the pace. But let's just look at the swing and how straight it is. All right, so he gets all of his energy through the football. There's no wasted energy here. I think he actually does go eyes up. Let's watch it one more time. Yeah. And that will lead to you being a consistent punter. Let's watch it one more time. Play it back a little slower. Yeah, there you have it. All right, last point. Like I was saying earlier, both these punts were good punts. In this one, this is me here against Oregon. My foot is way above my head. And that's an example of following all the way through. Here's Pat McAfee. His leg is bent. He's kind of decompressing, but he still got his hip and quad into the football, and it was still a bomb. And so yeah, I just thought that was a good visual representation of that. All right, last step, pace. Pace. This is really only learned through practice, I believe. The more you punt, the more you catch snaps, the more you practice, you have a better pace. This point is important, though. I see a lot of guys who are 1.5, 1.6 hand to foot in practice or by themselves, and that'll just never work in a game. So the more you can practice being closer to 1.2 or maybe 1.25, the better it'll feel in your game. And in a game, the good news is at least you generally do go faster in a game, but don't harm yourself by not practicing that, because it's a lot harder to get the ball off that faster. Okay, here's a good slide to, I think, an easy way to remember everything we just talked about, and it's the 6 S's of successful punting. I know it's kind of corny, but let's talk about them real quick. Short, so this is referring to your steps. Smooth, this is something that I have to work on. Don't tense up your body until the very last second where you're trying to hit the football. This will ensure that you're nice and smooth. Not like grunting and thinking, "Oh, I'm going to kill this football," but really just until the last second is when you need to have that mentality. Still, allow no movement in the drop. Straight, swing straight through the football. Don't swipe at it. Strong. This point I think is important. Sometimes it's easy to get lackadaisical or not engage your whole body, right? So your core, your plant leg, all of that. You want to be focused, and it's a whole body movement. So we need you at full energy for every punt. And swaggy, I did not put this in here to be funny. I really mean it. Like it's easy to kind of get super, super robotic. And you don't get me wrong, you want to be robotic, but you also want to have some athleticism and be able to adjust in a game if you have a bad snap or whatever. Or the rush gets through. You got to be athletic and remember that you're still playing a game, right? Final thoughts. These are just my thoughts in general about punting. The best way to become a better punter, in my opinion, is by practicing a whole lot. And I mean a lot. I know a lot of coaches tell you can only punt this many punts a week or this many punts a session. Now, there's some truth to that in terms of not getting injured. But if you're taking care of your body, if you're being aware of how your body feels during your punting session, I believe you can get away with around 600 punts a week. This is what I do, 4 days, 150 punts a day. And this will give you a leg up on the competition, because to get better at something, the best way to get better is by practicing, right? So That's a big point. Make sure you take care of yourself. I'm not saying right now if you're punting only 100 a week, next week you should go to 600. You should build yourself up to that. I'm just saying that this is actually, despite what popular opinion says, this is actually a very realistic and maintainable goal. At this point, man, watch film of yourself and watch film of other punters. Very important point. Because the fundamentals are the same and everyone's a little bit different. So, for example, when I watched some of those guys I just showed, I used to like Morstead, McAfee, Hecker, Marquette King, my uncle, Matt Turk. He played in the NFL for 19 years. My brother, Ben Turk. I punted with him all the time. Great punters. But I'm built a little bit different, and I had to figure out what was the best style of punting for me and what I did the best. But nonetheless, I took out little things from each of those guys and tried to replicate them and figure out how that can form into how I punt. Let's see, anything else here? You need to be strong and work out. Yeah, so make sure you're strong. I think we also realize punters nowadays, if you look at them, they're all usually pretty built. The reason being is, as long as you're flexible, why not be as big or strong as you can? This will increase your power, your max power output. Make sure you're hydrated. Take care of yourself. Roll out, stretch. Theragun. This is a massage gun. If you never had one before, I highly recommend it. Very good. And get good sleep, right? These are all important things to keeping your body healthy. Force equals mass times acceleration. Keep that in mind. And then last point, seeking God first and reading the Word of God is most important. I put that in there because without that, I would not be here. And I'm thankful to the Lord for how much He's blessed me with, and that's more important than punting. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching this presentation. If this helped you at all, please leave a like or a comment down below what you thought, and consider subscribing for more punting videos in the future, more workout videos, maybe some other different ideas. I have some ideas in my mind what else I'm going to make, but like I said, I hope this helped a little bit, and please let me know if you have any questions. All right? Thanks for watching.